Now I want to give you the floor to Davidrios Morgan. He was the ex-Medea officer, and actually now that he's not a Medea officer, I can only say that he is the mastermind behind at least most of the procurement projects. So David, the floor is yours, and looking forward.
Thank you very much, George. It's a pleasure to participate in this workshop. I would like to thank Medea, iProcure, and Civil Next for inviting me to just say a few words about why does the Commission, and in particular DG Home, care about innovation procurement. I will share my screen if that's okay, to show
Yes.
my presentation. I guess you can see now. I would just ask you if you are seeing the full screen presentation or if you are seeing something else.
It's perfect.
You see the full screen presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, why does DG Home care about procurement and innovation procurement? Well, I would say it's a matter of security. I was talking about this also in an event organized by iProcureNet a couple of weeks ago, and there I explained how current policies have put at the forefront of our priorities the development of innovative technologies and also the protection of EU citizens. Under this new policy context, the European Commission has boosted the investment for the development of security capabilities, and this includes also in the field of research and innovation. The thing is that of course, innovation can be decisive for the modernization of security capabilities in the face of new threats. Sometimes and often, these new threats are technology enabled or technology intensive. Also to improve the effectiveness of our response to traditional threats, also through technology, for example, and knowledge, and to increase the efficiency of our actions. But there is a but. The uptake of innovation is still a challenge for us. It takes a bit of effort, maybe too much effort, to bring the outcomes of research and innovation to the field of operations, to the market. And we know we are investigating lately and gaining better insights on a number of factors that hinder this innovation uptake. The factors that I will not enter into detail on them today, just to mention that these factors are complex, they are interconnected, and they intervene in different ways throughout the innovation uptake process, a process that is not as straightforward as one could think. And I can say that many people just believe that funding a research project that has led to very good results, it's enough to have a new solution in the market. Just let everyone know that the project has finished, that there is a nice prototype, and everyone will come and buy it. Well, it does not work just like this in security. I guess you are all very aware of it. Research and innovation is neither the beginning nor the end of the innovation uptake process. Research and innovation happens somewhere in the middle of a long road, which is full of decisions that are taken by buyers, who are really the ones who steer this market, a demand-driven market. So maybe the uptake process could look like this, something like this is just an example. We could think of this process as something, well, a long process, definitely going through many steps, and where success is only ensured if the needs are clear and understood from the very beginning. That's for a starting point. If resources are available to explore and develop alternatives to address these needs, if the research and innovation process is fully embedded in the capability development plans of the users and the buyers, and if the buyers and suppliers can work together to enable a single EU security market that at the moment, well, we struggle to see on a daily basis. So activating each of these steps in the process requires a substantial amount of early planning and using key instruments that can act as catalysts. I think it's Joseph who already in the introduction used this word, catalyst, because indeed public procurement can be one of these catalysts that help to underpin the transformational capacity of innovation, also in the civil security sector. But to do that, the public procurers need to deal with procurement maybe in a different way as it has been done traditionally. Procurement needs to be used as a strategic driver to help authorities face their challenges, and not just as a bureaucratic burden or as a rigid administrative process. And also it needs to be considered as early as possible and throughout the whole innovation uptake process. Also, George has shown some figures similar to this that you can see in this slide. Of course, the percentage varies depending on the source, maybe on the year or the number of EU member states that are counted in this statistic. But it's true that the public procurement, there's a large purchasing power in the public sector with which we can pull the demand for innovation. But it's also true that the traditional procurement approaches are maybe too rigid, not flexible enough for dealing with innovation. It's something that really requires this visibility, this change of mindset. And this is why innovation procurement instruments like pre-commercial procurement and public procurement of innovation were created to channel this demand pool for innovation in the most effective way. Innovation procurement opens many opportunities because it's designed to put the focus of research and technology development on the resolution of a public need. But at the same time, it improves the management of the risk, or sometimes it's just a risk perception, but the management of this risk that is typically associated to the investment in innovation that is not fully validated by the market. So in cases where there is a common need and a consolidated demand, both PCP and PPI allow public buyers to compare solutions proposed by different competitors and obtain a better price for an innovative solution that perfectly meets their needs. Will not jump into details of what is what and how it's implemented because I don't want to make any spoiler here. It will be addressed later in the workshop. So I was saying better price for solutions that perfectly meet the needs of the public buyers, and this is what we want at the end of the day, right? So to get the best product at the lowest price, and this is what innovation procurement is designed to achieve: modernization of public services, best value for money, but at the same time generating growth and creating new business opportunities for the industry, particularly for small and medium enterprises. Because innovation procurement can be seen as a win-win for all the actors involved in the procurement, for the buyers, of course, but also for suppliers, and why not for policymakers. For example, in the case of the public buyers, innovation procurement can help modernize public services, shape product development to public needs, reduce the supplier lock-in. Sometimes it's very limiting, exploit economies of a scale, or develop EU interoperable common solutions throughout the EU. But for the suppliers, for example, it provides many opportunities to access the public market for these small players that have sometimes more difficulties in reaching public buyers. And of course, for policymakers, it's also a good opportunity to prevent maybe a political fiasco by reducing the risk of buying very expensive systems that do not deliver on political priorities. So the landscape of benefits is very, very wide, and this is why we keep investing and we keep promoting innovation procurement, something that at least at EU level, it has been done already since 2007, after the adoption of the first PCP communication. Sorry, I hear maybe if there are some comments or something in the chat, I cannot see them for the moment. I just tell you in advance because I have the slides in front of me. So sorry, I continue. I was saying that since 2007, the support of the European Union institutions to innovation procurement has only grown. Okay, since this first communication, for example, in terms of political endorsement, the first European Parliament and Council conclusions that called for a wider uptake of innovation procurement, or with the opinion of the the opinion on innovation procurement of the European Research Advisory Committee of the European Council in 2015, which called to all member states to create a strategic political framework and clear national action plans to set up national coordinating services, also known as innovation procurement competence centers, to support procurers in innovation procurement implementation, and which also called the member states to provide financial incentives for public procurers to undertake innovation procurement. Let's say that also the support of the EU institution has grown in terms of awareness raising, with targeted communication campaigns and thematic workshops and events that keep bringing this instrument closer to buyers and suppliers, but also with communication material, which offering communication material which explain in detail all the features of PCPs and PPIs, that gives visibility to practical examples, and which answers almost any question that anyone starting in this business could have when trying to get involved in a, for example, in a PCP action in the EU-funded research and innovation work program. I really encourage you to have a look at this FAQ file because it's really illustrative. Also grown support in terms of assistance to public procurers. So let me just click, yeah. The European Commission has created initiatives to help public buyers in building this capacity of buying innovatively, which is not traditionally there. It's not easy to achieve either. So, for example, in 2015, DG Connect launched an initiative called EAFIP, European Assistance for Innovation Procurement in the field of ICT. To support the public buyers. We also have the innovation procurement platform and networks like Procure to Innovate, which brings together national competence centers on innovation procurement. You can even check if there is one of these competence centers in your member state, or iProcureNet, one of the hosts of this workshop today, which focuses on public procurement in the domain of security. Also, I would like to call your attention on this guidance on innovation procurement, the Commission's guidance on innovation procurement, which has all kinds of examples of cases where innovation procurement can be beneficial, and also concrete recommendations for public buyers to better attract both innovation and innovators. And I will come back to this later. More assistance here. In 2014, the Commission proposed a new state aid framework, something that is worrying for public procurers. Of course, it worries them a lot, and this new framework facilitated the necessary, let's say, legal safeguards to be flexible in cases where it is required, and it's the case with the procurement of innovation. Also in 2014, a new generation of public procurement directives was adopted, which recognized PPI as an instrument that falls within the directive, and also provides an exemption to PCP, something also very useful to put these instruments forward and foster their utilization. In terms of benchmarking and performance measurement, a lot has been done already. There are different studies that show how effectively this instrument are being taken up by buyers, are being implemented throughout the EU. I would just call your attention on this last study that was started in 2017 that aimed at benchmarking the policy support framework of innovation procurement in the different member states, and to measure how much innovation procurement is taking place in Europe. Also, it aimed at setting up a measurement methodology that is compatible with existing scoreboards in Europe, etc. Very interesting information here. And of course, and finally, support has increased also in terms of funding throughout these years. European structural and investment funds support innovation procurement. Of course, FP7 and H2020 have significantly supported innovation procurement since the first calls of FP7 with 4.5 million euros for innovation procurement actions in the 2 first years, up to more than 100 million in the last call of H2020, and more support will come in Horizon Europe for sure. So very good. Yes, EU actions at EU level are okay, but they are definitely not enough. So without the impulse of member state actors, of the buyers, it's not possible to unleash all the potential of IP. So what are the countries and regions doing to mainstream innovation procurement? Well, some are doing more than others. This is true, but those who are doing something are using a mix of these 4 ingredients. First, a political encouragement to public buyers to buy innovative. For example, some national policies have really made the modernization of the public sector a political priority. They have set quality versus efficiency improvement targets, and this has been also looking, for example, into what needs can be addressed with PPI or PCP. They have set also targets for percentage of public procurement budget that are to be directed to innovation every year. Also, some regions and member states are establishing a framework that favors innovation procurement with setting up innovation procurement competence centers, giving training, assistance to procurers, or even given financial support programs, creating financial support programs. Some member states are also encouraging that the demand meets the supply. They are improving the early notification of innovation procurement needs and opportunities, and open to market consultations where industry can meet the buyers and exchange. Right? They are, of course, all member states leveraging on EU support using H2020 funds, ESI funds, EIB loans, and also relying on the assistance for innovation procurement that is facilitated at EU level. So yes, okay, a lot is being done, but the map of the innovation procurement throughout the EU is uneven. There is still large differences within Europe, with front-runner, let's say, member states who are investing significantly more than others. And you can read more about this in the benchmarking study that I told you about earlier. You have the link here. But the bottom line is that yes, EU still underinvests in innovation procurement. We need to scale up. For example, for you to have an idea, the EU spends 5 times less on research and development procurement than the US. And this underinvestment in R&D procurement is responsible for half of the R&D investment gap between the EU and the US. So we really need to step up our game. So this is the general framework. Now let's talk about security. Okay, we have done a few things already in innovation procurement for security at EU level. And it all started with the 2012 call of FP7, and the Close-Eye project came out of that call. It was followed by EUISA and EUCISA 2020. These were really the first experiences. These projects were pioneers. They helped bring in security end users into the innovation procurement and demonstrate the merits of the instruments. But we have to take into account that at the time it was not as easy as today. The POVs, because these projects were not exactly PCPs, they were pre-operational validation projects. did not follow exactly the the PCP model. There were no regulatory provisions, no directive, for example, yet the new directive had not been adopted in 2014. There was still a very high risk perception from the legal and financial side of the stakeholders, and I really suffered that back in the days. But again, this was a very good experience that well, suggested that we could move to the next step and really launch the PCP instrument in full force in H 2020. This is what happened with the second generation, we could say, of projects. Civil Next is one of them, but we also have Broadway and Shuttle. And now the last generation of PCP projects are Prevent and I Procure Security, and we are expecting this last 5 projects to deliver excellent results. They are not finished yet. The only ones that have finished so far are the POVs, the first three projects. What we know so far is that these instruments really help in overcoming these barriers to innovation uptake. They really tackle the factors that I mentioned before. They help reducing fragmentation, bringing together buyers, but also breaking the borders of the creating one single EU market, facilitating access to tenders in other member states for suppliers. They improve the market visibility, improving the visibility of the needs of the users, of the buyers, and the visibility of the offer, or of what the market can offer. It also taking down some cultural barriers in the way that the innovation mindset is being proliferates more on the user side. Also changing some industrial dynamics by which small players did not have easy access to public buyers. Now with these instruments, access is easier to SMEs and startups. It also provides a common analytical framework to really understand the needs and assessing the options. It helps also addressing ethical, legal, and societal considerations from early in the development of the technology, from early stages. And of course, it provides financial support to conduct these procurements and aim at this best value for money that I referred to before. So not bad at all. 7 out of 9 factors are addressed by innovation procurement. We know this because we have looked into the projects that we have launched, and we have seen what they have delivered and how successfully they have been implemented, or how they have struggled to be implemented. There is an assessment that is available online. You can have a look at it. We looked into our projects, starting with a questionnaire that we sent to 5 of them, to CLOSI, EWISA, UCISE 2020, Broadway, and Shuttle. Only to these projects, because these were the only ones that had gone through the tendering process of the PCP. This is why Civil Next was not included, because it had not started the tendering process yet. 4 out of these projects answered the survey. Unfortunately, UCISE 2020 did not reply. And we got interesting insights. This whole assessment was based on the Commission guidance on innovation procurement that I also talked about before. A very interesting document that will soon be updated, so keep an eye on it, because this document offers practical guidance on innovation procurement, on how to attract innovators and how to attract innovation. And this is what we measured in this projects. We asked them questions, for example, about how they addressed or how they avoided the bureaucratic burden for tenderers, or how they defined their payment schemes to the contractors, or, for example, how they expressed their need, if it was prescriptive or not prescriptive, if the tender award criteria was relying only on price, or equally on price and quality, or mostly on quality, for example, or even how they managed IPR, which is something that's critical. We also explored the tender results, and we asked them what obstacles they had gone through. And we saw that the performance was not bad at all, despite the fact that the 3 of the projects that we studied were POVs, not really PCPs, and they had many more obstacles, for example, for reducing the bureaucratic burden for the tenderers, or to handle maybe in a more comfortable way the payment schemes for subcontractors. But still, the replies were not bad. The way that the projects implemented all these parameters were not bad. It's even more evident that the performance was good in how the procurement approach of these projects handled the attracting innovation, like, for example, how the need was articulated, or how they managed the IPRs. Again, the results were very positive, and these results led to 2 important findings. The first one is that these projects had an impact in the EU public security market economy, especially in terms of enabling access to smaller innovators, such as SMEs. You can see the results of the security projects. 59.3% of the contract value has gone directly to SMEs, while in traditional procurement, public procurement, it's only 29%. So this is something very, very relevant. The second finding is that these projects are contributing to unlocking the European single market in security. You see that the first 2 vertical lines on the top, contractors that are not from the country of the lead procurer in these projects were on average 42.50%, and contractors that are not from any of the countries of any of the project partners of the buyers group, 27.5%. So if you ask on average with traditional public procurement, what are these numbers? Well, on average, 1.7% of public procurement contracts across Europe are won by bidders that are not from the country of the procurers. So it really has an impact in unlocking this European single market in security. We also studied the obstacles that these projects had gone through, and if we go bottom up, of course, everyone experienced financial issues. There is an investment is required to put this forward. More financial issues were faced by the POVs back at the time, because, for example, those projects, the VAT, the cost of the VAT value-added tax was not eligible. So this was a big issue for them, but this is not the case anymore. Well, they also had some struggle with the legal issues associated with the implementation of the PCPs, IPR management. They also struggled with attracting the attention of tenderers, letting the suppliers know that there was this opportunity and that the buyers wanted to collaborate with them. And something that is not very evident in the results, and I think it's really important, is obstacles to have actionable conclusions and actions from the project outcomes. Here has not been flagged as something really outstanding, because really only 3 out of the 5 projects that we studied had finished with the 3 POVs. And actually, from these 3 POVs, something good happened after the project had finished. In the case of Closai, there was an ISF action launched by the Spanish Guardia Civil and the Portuguese Guardia Nacional Republicana to procure a system inspired on the project outcomes. And in the case of EUCISA 2020, for example, EMSA, the European Maritime Safety Agency, took up the results of the project. So this is very good. But we understand that once the PCP is over, then we need an additional effort to make something out of it. So the thing is that we still have few experiences in this type of projects, only 5, and public procurers are not yet aware of all the opportunities. The risk perceived is still high, and the capacity to procure, to do innovative procurement needs to be further developed. So we see that there is margin for improvement at EU and member state level in 4 main lines. First, sustaining an adequate level of funding for innovation procurement actions. Secondly, to facilitate the procurement process. Thirdly, to increase the awareness raising among public buyers and suppliers. And finally, to foster the debate and increase the knowledge base around innovation procurement. What are we doing? Well, in Horizon Europe, we will still see PCP calls. We will still use the 2-step process with a coordination and support action that facilitates the preparation of a PCP, because this requires effort and it deserves some funding. And then would come the PCP. This reduces significantly the risk and improves the credibility of the PCP by ensuring that there is indeed a structured demand, that a variety of options to address the need has been explored and indeed exists, that the PCP tender is duly planned before it starts, and that there is a commitment from the public buyers at least to pursue the exploitation of results beyond the end of the project. All the things that we will do in the future is to provide clearer indications, for example, in the text of the topics, but still without being prescriptive. We would like to offer the possibility of bottom-up, what we call bottom-up PCPs. So there is not a fixed theme for the PCP, but it's the applicants who would propose where they want to apply this instrument. We are talking about security still, right? And in general, there will be a simplification in the use of the instrument, the simplification throughout the whole framework program. So less red tape, more guidance on practical implementation issues, and simple IT supported reporting and payment flows. About rising awareness and identify opportunities. Here, the networks play a very important role. We have 2 networks organizing this workshop today. MEDEA, which is a security network, in this case, a regional. There are other 13 apart from MEDEA of these security networks, focusing on different themes or on different regions, and they are the voice of practitioners. They can say what is the need. They can say what is subject to innovation procurement. They can explore these opportunities. They can bring buyers, they can bring users together or identify users with a common need. But then we also have iProcurement or iProcureNet, which is the voice of the procurers, of the buyers, and they can help public buyers in security on the how to do it. So this combination of the networks is very powerful, and I'm very happy that this workshop was organized today by these 2 networks. Finally, I think we still need to foster the debate and increase the knowledge base around innovation procurement. It's good to have these workshops of the projects. We are also going to address it under what most of you probably know is the community of users for safe, secure, and resilient societies, chaired by DG Home and steered by DG Home, that now will change, at least will change the name. It will become the Community of European Research and Innovation for Security, CERES. It will have 4 thematic working groups, 1 for each security theme, so infrastructure resilience, disaster resilience, fighting crime and terrorism, and border management. But it will also have a new area called Strengthen Security Research and Innovation. That will focus on issues that are cross-cutting to the whole security research and innovation area, including, for example, industrial matters, catalysts of innovation uptake, and cross-cutting research and innovation. And as you see, innovation procurement will be one of the themes that we will address, not replacing the activity of the projects, of course, but just reinforcing it and giving visibility to the work that the projects are doing in this domain. So I really invite you to engage in the activities of the CERES and to keep in touch and let us know how these instruments are progressing. This is all on my side. Thank you very much, and I hope this was interesting for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I will raise the floor for people to ask questions in the chat, please. I was writing one question in the chat, so can I go? Please, David. What will
Sorry.
be the...
Yeah, sorry, I did not hear you. Yeah.
What will be the benefits from the bottom-up PCP for security practitioners? You tell us that bottom-up PCP is something new.
Yeah.
What will be the benefits? What the first-line practitioners should expect from it?
The concept of the bottom-up is just how refers to how prescriptive the Commission will be in setting up the topics. So we could propose a PCP topic that focuses, for example, on maritime border surveillance, or we could just offer an instrument, a PCP instrument, that then the applicants would decide on which challenge to apply it. It could be border surveillance, could be something else. You could see it as an open topic, where it's the buyers group who decide how to use it. This is good because then the need comes directly from the buyers, and it's them who decide to commit, to engage, and to use these instruments to pursue their needs.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, please?
I have a question. Here's Joseph speaking. Can I raise the question?
Yes, Joseph, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for an interesting presentation, as always. I would like to ask, do you think that we can use some good examples from other sectors than the security sector when addressing the innovation procurement in our sector? Because I believe that maybe some sectors are a little bit better in application of innovation procurement. What do you think about it? Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I would not consider security as a sector where innovation procurement is absolutely new. We are not maybe the most advanced, but we are definitely not the last ones in jumping into this. We have some experience already, but we always need to build on existing knowledge, and the experience of others is always very valuable. From what I know, and at least from the EU perspective, maybe the sector that is more advanced in terms of using innovation procurement is the health sector. And of course, security is very special in many ways, but maybe there are commonalities with this sector that can be exploited and can serve as an example. But again, all experience outside security is a reference, but then it has to be tailored to this context where we are, that it's so special, so particular.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions from any attendees, please? So,
if I may, following up from Joseph's question, actually, would you consider that the experience in the defense sector, joint procurement in the defense sector, can be a good landmark, for example?
Yeah. So if we are talking about joint procurement, it's a slightly different discussion because innovation procurement, in what regards the implementation of PCP and PPI, I wouldn't say that the defense is so much ahead of security. While I do think that defense is maybe one step ahead in terms of joint cross-border procurement,
Yes.
for example. Look, we always try to draw a line between civil security and defense. There is a clear demarcation, and it's clearly two different worlds, but there are strong commonalities. and the experience of the defense sector could be an important source of inspiration for civil security, for example, in terms of technology development or in terms of capability development, or in some cases, as it's the case with joint cross-border procurement, the experience of defense can be valuable. Again, as I said to Joseph, every other piece of experience has to be put in this context, and we cannot just copy what others do. We have to tailor it.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no questions, so I would like to thank you, David, for your fruitful input.